we have to face the reality that there'll probably be fewer appraisers in the future as value acceptance and modeling with very discrete data that's being collected by third parties and ourselves is continually fed into the models, and the models are able to produce valuations that are worthy of the risk of the collateral risk decision.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris, your humble host, hanging out with you once again in the podcast chair. Welcome. Good to have you here. I want to remind you that we're sponsored by two great companies. Of course, A La Mode. A La Mode is the software that I've been using for many years. You should be as well. Check them out by going to their website, alamode.com. And of course, my E&O through OREP. OREP.org is where you find out more. That's OREP.org. I want to welcome back to the program my good friend. It's been a while, Mr. Ernie Durbin. Ernie Durbin is the Chief Valuation Officer at Voxter. He develops innovative solutions with the valuation industry and expands Voxter Valuation Services. He holds the prestigious CRE designation from the Counselors of Real Estate. I want to talk about that in a second, Ernie, and SRA and AIRRS designations from the Appraisal Institute. Ernie has contributed to various special projects, including the Appraiser Diversity Initiative, the ADI. He received the 2018 Valuation Visionary Award. I was there from the Collateral Risk Network, CRN, and serves on the Real Property Valuation Committee for the National Association of Realtors. In his private practice, Durbin focuses on complex residential valuation challenges, and he's married to Valina and has 4 children. Welcome back to the program, Mr.
Hey, it's good to be back with you.
Good to have you, my friend. So talk about—
Been a while. It has been a while.
I kind of stumbled over this CRE designation. That's not one that you commonly hear. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's the Counselors of Real Estate. It's actually, Dustin, it was probably my most difficult designation to receive.
Really? Because
Yeah,
you've got
it's by-
SRA on there as well, my friend.
Yeah, it's it's by invitation only, and then you have to provide this RFI, request for information. Mine ended up to be about 22 pages long, interviews with other CREs, and then then finally you're invited in. So I was invited in about 4 or 5 years ago, and
Cool.
it's a really great community now these are counselors. Valuation's a part of it. There's a lot of MAIs in it, a few residential appraisers, not very many,
Right.
but a lot of other real estate professionals. It's an international organization. It's all around the world. So
And when you say counselors, describe what that means, because what comes to my mind is laying down on the couch and talking about my childhood. When you talk about counselors in real estate, what are you talking about?
it's solving problems, really. So helping a client make some determination of the highest and best use of their property. That's a term that we appraisers use, but it's also a common term outside of our industry, believe it or not, and particularly with the counselors, helping them make real estate decisions. Really doesn't involve sales, and like I said, there are some appraisers in it, but not a lot. So I mean, you've got international folks that are in commercial real estate all around the world. It's a very interesting organization.
Very cool. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Something I'll look into a little bit more and find out more about. A little bit about you, Ernie. Over the last couple of years, I don't know what year you actually did this, but you bought an Airstream. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you don't work out of a traditional office. Kind of a cool deal.
I don't, I am right now, right? So, but back in 2017, I finally talked my wife into selling our big two-story we were raised to four kids in.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you what, I mean, it took forever because we had to have it for Thanksgiving and Easter and
Hmm.
Christmas or when kids came home. But anyway, long story short, I wanted to update the property, and we had a small 23-foot Airstream at that time that we were just using for travel occasionally. And I said, let's move into the Airstream and sell all of our stuff. We've been married for 40 years. Let's get rid of everything except for legacy furniture pieces, put it in storage. We'll buy a condo at the end, and we'll buy new furniture after 40 years, right? And no more kids. So, long story short, for about a month and a half, we were in the Airstream and the property sold, and we're just traveling. And you can do everything remotely nowadays.
Sure.
My wife said, "Hey, while we got everything in storage, you want to keep doing this?" And I said, "Yeah." So for 18 months, we bought a 30-foot classic Airstream that has a router built in it, and it's got Wi-Fi and solar and everything, so we could be
Mm.
completely self-contained. And I've got a green screen in it; it's ready to go.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, that's very, very cool. I think that's
But
very.
now my mother's 97, and about 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we started taking care of her with my sisters. When I say taking care of, just letting her live with us, right? She's still in great shape. So about half the time we're in a condo in my hometown of Hamilton, Ohio, and the other half time we're in the Airstream.
Very
So, and I
cool.
just work from wherever people,
Yeah, I
have
love it. I
one
love it.
that.
I love that you get around, and I love that you have opportunity to see the world. I think many appraisers probably look forward to the day when they can do that. Probably more and more are going to have that opportunity with some of the changes. I want to talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about changes, Ernie, because I hate to say it this way, but sometimes we just get on social media and we talk to other appraisers, and it just seems like change is such a hard thing for appraisers. But when we get back from the break, I want to talk a little bit more about change specifically with appraisers, and you always have such a bright outlook on change and appraisers and futuristic things that are happening within the valuation industry. But let's talk specifics before the break, if you don't mind, Ernie. So first of all, you kind of have a unique situation there, not just at Voxter, but also in the networking that you've done, the groups of people, professionals that you've surrounded yourself with. Talk to us about the changes with regard to the forms. We've got 12 traditional forms that we've used for many, many years. Yeah, they've been tweaked, and yeah, they've been changed, but now we're talking a big change. What's going on?
Hey, you know what? We're no longer talking. We're not going to stop. We're going to stop using the word form, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, a USPAP talks about reports, and that's what we're going to have. The future is an appraisal report, a uniform residential appraisal report. And that report will be all inclusive and cover all kinds of different scopes of work, whether it's single family, co-op, condo, multifamily, ADU, everything, right? And so it's going to be more process based. So we need to start. I know we're dealing with a lot of language right now. Maybe we need to talk about that too. But one of the words that we need to stop using probably is form and start thinking about report, because
Well,
that's
and I love how you said process based, because that's really the way it always has been. That's always the way it should be, right? Our
yeah.
focus and appraisal is standard one, right? The process, the problem, the working through the scope, and really secondary to that is standard two, the quote
That's
unquote
right.
form or the reporting side of it. Yet I think a lot of appraisers, myself included, love my dad, right? But he taught me to be form based, right? He taught me to you look at a problem and you match a form to it, and then you deal with the
That's
form.
right.
When really we should be doing that backwards, as they say, right?
That's right.
So for those that have not seen it, I've seen it. I know you've seen it. What does it look like when I sit down to complete an appraisal in the future with the new reports rather than forms?
Well, we don't know yet, right? So it depends upon how the software developers are going to put their own unique spin on it. The neat thing about there's going to be a data set that's delivered to the GSEs and or our clients that accept the same data set, right? That's the new UAD 3.6. We're on 2.6, 2.4. I can't remember right now, but we're on a GSE version of MISMO that's antiquated. No one else is using right now. So that new data payload is what's going to be received, and because that is highly commoditized, right? I mean, it's structured data in XML format. There'll be four things that are transmitted: a zip file with the photos, the XML itself, a PDF of that XML, all in one zip file sent to the into the GSEs or to our clients. So that means that the sky's the limit, and it's up to software vendors how we gather that data, right? And so when we think about it at Voxter, and we're working on some early plans because we own a now as you're aware. We think about the process, and it's way overused. I hate it, but it really does capture it pretty well, like the TurboTax idea, right? Where you answer questions, it opens up other questions depending upon what your what the scope of work is. And one thing that is startling to residential appraisers out there, if they look at some of the output, the reports that look like a form that are out there right now that come from the GSEs, they have almost every field enumerated in that. And you have to realize that we're not going to fill out half those fields because they don't relate to that particular assignment, right?
Right.
It's going to be very interesting because if you have a green feature, for instance, on your subject property, then in the grid there will be an energy efficient items in the grid. If you don't, that won't be in the grid.
Right there. Yeah.
Right. So the grid will be expanding, and one of the things that we're working on trying to figure out, actually, I've got a pretty good solution, I think, is what happens if your comparable has a green feature and you've already got your grid. So we've got to be able to.
That's actually the thing that I thought of. If you don't have a green feature, it doesn't show up, but your comps do. How do you make that quote unquote adjustment if it's not there?
Yeah, and we're working on some solutions to that I'm not going to tell other people how to do. But it'll be the idea though is we've got since we have the opportunity to make this process based now, we've got to make it so that appraisers can move through these reports faster, right? And more efficient. And look, we're all very concerned about the language that we use in terms of objective versus subjective terms. Well, the bright side about the new data collection routine, the new data set, is it's a lot more discrete, and there's not a lot of commentary for appraisers. It'll be kind of driven by the discreteness of the data.
So. Interesting. Yeah. Do you think this is a good change, Ernie? I kind of sense that you do, but talk to us about where we've been, where we're going, and your thought processes as whether this is good overall for the value.
Well, I mean,
or not. I don't want to bias you.
Well, thank you. So look, man, the damn form we're working on now is older than the space shuttle, which was retired because it was technologically out of date, right? So we're way overdue here with the technology that we have nowadays, Dustin. Way overdue for this kind of change. So look, it probably seems intimidating to some appraisers out there, but I really want you to relax and continue to process your appraisal files the way we are processing them to meet the requirements today. And don't worry about this. Trust me, it is going to, the process itself will be better in the future, right? There'll be more data to collect. Other people might be collecting that data for us, as we know.
Yes, we do.
Data collection in terms of the subject property. And, I know that there's a lot of MLS folks out there that are looking at populating this data set from, for comparables for us. There'll be all kinds of folks that are interested in in moving data from MLS and public records into this data set, which will allow us to pre-populate information faster. So we're going to be able to make decisions, which is what we're paid for, and not be typists. And I think that's huge, right?
Yeah, that was the soundbite of the decade right there. We're talking with Ernie Durbin. He, of course, is the Chief Valuation Officer at Voxter. I want to pause here for just a brief minute and remind you of our sponsors. Of course, not something you think about very often, folks. Probably not something you want to think about very often. But when you do think about it, I hope that you will think about OREP. OREP is not just not just E&O, not just insurance. They don't just have your back when it comes to that kind of thing. They also have your back when it comes to the benefits. For example, free education every single year through OREP. Check them out by going to their website, orep.org, and click on the benefits tab. Again, it's OREP.org. Of course, I've been with Alamode for many, many years, and I stay with them because of the features that they give me, the integrations, the smart integrations that are in the mobile app, that are in the side-by-side view, that are in the smart adjust. Folks, if you've not checked them out lately, check them out by going to their website or pick up the phone and call them. It's 800 Alamode, or of course alamode.com. And welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair with my good friend, Mr. Ernie Durbin. We're talking about change, Ernie. It seems like it's always happening, right?
It is. And my mother joined me on a podcast the other day. She's 97. She's got to be the oldest living SRA, right? She's an SRA.
Yeah.
Retired for 30 years, but when you retire officially, you get to keep your designation. So
that's very cool.
But at any rate, we were talking with Brian Reynolds actually about just changes that have occurred over the years, and there's been so many things that have seemed to form the working habits of appraisers that, but some of these of late I think have been very good things. I really do.
Yeah.
I really am not at all opposed to the more objective commentary versus subjective. I've always thought that we should be describing our market segments not as neighborhoods, but as market areas, and with very objective information. That's going to be facilitated, I think, by the new data sets too. So
yeah, it's interesting just from a broad perspective. Ernie, you've always been very optimistic when it comes to change. One of the most famous episodes out there is when you and I talked about harbor pilots and the future of the valuation industry. And I love your perspective. It's difficult, Ernie, because I try to keep my ear to the ground when it comes to what are other appraisers saying out there, what's going on in the social media, what's going on in the forums. And it seems like changes like this come along, data collectors, the new UAD, the retiring the forums and moving more to a process-based system, and the loud, I'm going to call them minority. I don't have statistics, right? But the loud minority is always first to blow their horn and to complain. And yet it seems like I get constant private messages from the silent majority, right, saying, hey, keep preaching what you're preaching. We're fine with change. We get the change, right? We understand that industries and professions and everything changes, right? In general, Ernie, let's talk broad base. Where do you see the valuation industry going? And maybe a better question is, where do you see appraisers going? The older appraisers, if you will, the younger appraisers, people coming in, moving out. What do you see going on in the future, maybe 5 years down the road?
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the harbor pilot discussion. That's kind of a talk I gave when I got my Valuation Visionary Award in 2018, and I think we followed up with an interview after that. I just wrote a piece on that'll be published just to remind people of the concept. The idea is that harbor pilots they have to know their local waters. They're usually former cruise ship captains. Cruise ship captains do great, but they really follow the process for thousands and thousands of miles, being involved in a lot of the intricacies of the journey. But when it comes to the local port, the harbor pilot takes over because they're the local expert there, right? So I think that's where we're headed in the very close future. I used to say not too distant, but I think it really is upon us, where information is going to be brought to the appraiser, and the appraiser is going to do what they do best, and that's make value-related decisions, right? Not anything else. If you can, when I used to have an appraisal practice in Cincinnati, I had 3 or 4 appraisers working with me, and each one of them had a minimum of one. Many of them had 2 assistants. And I mean, for heaven's sakes, they would, they'd stay at their desk while somebody ran out and got gas for their car for the inspections later on. I mean, that's, it was important to optimize their time, right? Because I wanted them making decisions that were really relevant. That's where we're headed now, right? We're going to be the harbor pilots of the future. Now, look, there are fewer harbor pilots than there are cruise ship captains.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think we have to face the reality that there'll probably be fewer appraisers in the future, as value acceptance and modeling with very discrete data that's being collected by third parties and ourselves is continually fed into the models, and the models are able to produce valuations that are worthy of the risk of the collateral risk decision, right? So I'm still very optimistic, and I don't think this is a negative thing, but I think we're going to be called upon to do what we do best, and that is to do the tough ones, right? I mean, I did a VA this morning, and it was in a subdivision down in Harrison, Ohio, and I was able to shoot 11 comparable properties that sold within 3 blocks.
Right.
I'm not getting that in the future,
Yeah.
right?
No, I hear you.
Because there's going to be, I love regression analysis, but I bet there's very little I can adjust for other than condition, because these are all model matches. Well, that is something that's going to be those easy assignments. They're going to be picked up by a value acceptance type modeling. I'm going to use type because there'll be other people doing the same things. The Achilles heel of an AVM is always condition, quality, and externality. Those 3 things, right? So if you have somebody that's out there evaluating and providing discrete information on the condition of the property, when it was updated, the quality based on photographs, and we can now use AI in photographs to help us narrow decision making there. And then you've got any externality noted and photos of that, then that takes some of those risk factors away. So there'll be less appraisers. I do think those appraisers will make more money. I think they're going to have a better life in general, because rather than they'll still be doing some appraisal inspections, of course, but there'll be a lot of decision making that's done at your desk. And if you're like me and you like to travel, you can do that from your Airstream or other type vehicle, or from your Airbnb that you own.
Come stay in my Airbnb, guys. We can a couple out here. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're an attorney, you can pretty much work from anywhere except for court dates, right? There's a lot of doctors nowadays that are teledocs, and my grandson broke his arm not too long ago, and it was in the evening, of course, and so the X-ray was read by a doctor a physician in Australia, because you can do it, right?
Yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah.
So that kind of technology is upon us in the appraisal business. I think we are going to get new entrants into this business. I think the technology is probably, I believe that it will attract people and young people that are interested in technology. I do think that I'm part of the Appraisal Diversity Initiative. I think we're going to have a more diverse profession in the future. I believe that we're reconsidering PIREA is an example, but we're reconsidering, how we evaluate the qualifications of an appraiser that may make it not as steep a slope to enter this business, and also help enterprising appraisers build firms again. So probably less appraisers that make more money and are respected for that specialization.
Yeah, I love it. I'm glad you brought up AI. I'm glad you brought up some of these other quote unquote concerns out there. I've been talking a lot about AI, ChatGPT. I've been spending hours every day on ChatGPT and talking to appraisers about how they can integrate that technology into what they do. And of course, Ernie, there's no surprise. People are going to pop off and, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're feeding data to Big Brother, and I can't believe that you would use that kind of technology in your appraisal report. I think in the end, Ernie, I think you said it best, right? The change is coming, number one. Number two, our future is not bleak. Maybe for the form monkeys, if you will, the form, I hate to say it that way, but the box checkers, right? Those individuals that are just boom, 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 kick it out the door, go to the next one, boom, 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 kick it out the door, go to the next one. Like you said, those cookie cutters are going to go away. Why? Because technology can do that, right? Appraisers have got to find their value. And be careful, folks. When I say value, I'm talking about the value that you provide to your clients, the value.
Intrinsic value.
Yeah, exactly. Find your value. What does your value look like in the future? And Ernie, I think you nailed it. I think that there's a reason that you got the Visionary Award, because you are a visionary, right? You are one that looks down the road and you say, you know what? How am I going to create myself in such a way that I can make more money, have a better lifestyle, and deal with the changes that are coming and still provide quote unquote value to those that I serve?
Agreed. And look, I think there's going to be an opportunity for appraisers to be in the property data collection end. Maybe not even individually. They can run, a company where they have a couple people working for them that does property data collection, right? And by the same token, if you're driving to an assignment and there's a property data collection assignment along the way, and you remember your billable hours, how long it takes you, and it fits in your routine of, let's just say you want to make $100 an hour, then you've got to get paid $100 for that if it takes you an hour, right? So if that doesn't work in your business model, then for heaven's sakes, don't do it. If you don't, but if it does, why not?
Love it.
Not?
Ernie,
it's just all part of being a valuation professional. I'm encouraging appraisers to put on their business cards, and when they're at cocktail parties and they say, what do you do? Well, I'm a valuation professional. I value properties, not appraise.
Very cool. Very cool. Mr. Ernie Durbin, Chief Valuation Officer at Voxter. Thank you. It's always a pleasure, my friend, to have you on and to talk to you and to listen to your great wisdom.
It's always good to be with you too, Dustin.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.